Hey, welcome. Ever stop to think about something kinda wild? Your voice. Just a simple vibration in the air can become a signal that zips around the entire globe at the speed of light. I mean, how does that even work? Today, we're going to dive deep into the invisible worlds of sound and radio to figure out exactly how that bit of magic happens. Let's do it.
All right, so let's kick things off with a question. Think about it. What's really the difference between hearing your friend's voice from across the room and hearing a DJ's voice from a radio station that's hundreds of miles away? I mean, they both start out as sound, right? But they take these incredibly different journeys to get to your ears. And you know what? Understanding that journey, that's the key to everything we're going to talk about today.
So, before we can get to the magic of radio, we have to go back to basics. We got to start with the fundamentals. And that means really understanding what sound is. And spoiler alert, it's probably not what you think.
You see, sound isn't some thing that flies through the air. It's actually a form of energy. It's a vibration, a mechanical wave. And here's the catch. It needs something to travel through. We call that a medium. It could be air, water, even a solid wall. It works by just pushing the particles of that medium back and forth, passing the energy along like a relay race. And that is exactly why there's zero sound in the vacuum of space. There's just nothing there for the vibrations to vibrate.
Now, these vibrations aren't just random chaos. Oh no, we can measure them with some real precision. There are three main things we look at. First, loudness. That's basically the power or the oomph of the sound wave, and we measure it in decibels. Then you've got frequency, which is all about how fast the vibration is. That's what gives us pitch, high notes, low notes, and we measure that in hertz. And finally, there's duration. That one's easy. It's just how long the sound lasts.
Okay, so to get a real feel for what decibels mean, let's use some examples you know. 30 decibels. That's like a soft whisper. Super quiet, but you can definitely hear it.
Now double that to 60 decibels, and you've got a normal conversation. Pretty much the sound level most of us are swimming in every day. And then you jump all the way up to 120 decibels. That's the roar of a jet engine taking off. And let me tell you, that's not just loud. It's physically painful. It can cause immediate damage to your hearing. It just goes to show you the incredible range of energy that sound waves can carry.
But here's the thing. Here's the crucial problem. The one that makes talking to someone far away with just sound totally impossible. Sound has a fatal flaw. It fades. And this brings us right to the central challenge that scientists and inventors had to solve.
So, think about this. Does a sound, once you make it, just travel on forever through the universe? It's a cool thought, right? But the answer is a big fat no. It just vanishes. But wait, the energy doesn't just cease to exist. That's not how physics works. No, it gets absorbed, it gets scattered, and it gets converted into other forms of energy until it's just too weak for us to even notice.
And there are really three main reasons this happens. First up is absorption. Think of soft things like curtains, carpets, even the air itself as sound sponges. They just soak up that energy. Second, scattering. The sound wave spreads out in every direction, kind of like the ripples in a pond, getting weaker and weaker the farther it travels. And finally, there's conversion to heat. Believe it or not, the friction from all those vibrating particles actually turns the sound energy into tiny, tiny amounts of heat.
I mean, to really put this into perspective, think about the Krakatoa eruption back in 1883. It was one of the loudest sounds in recorded history. It was heard almost 3,000 miles away. But even that monumental blast of energy eventually faded into nothing. Today, that historic sound is just gone. Its energy completely dissipated back into the environment.
Okay, so if sound on its own can't go the distance, how in the world do we send a voice across the planet? Well, this is where human ingenuity really shines. We figured out we could use a totally different kind of wave to carry our message, the radio wave. And folks, this right here is the absolute crucial difference. Sound waves are mechanical. They need physical stuff to travel through, and they plod along at the speed of sound. But radio waves, they're electromagnetic. They can cruise right through the vacuum of space, and they do it at the speed of light. You hear sound with your ears, you need an antenna to catch radio waves. Totally different ballgames.
But how do you actually get the sound onto the radio wave? Well, there's this genius process called modulation. It's the trick of encoding the information from a slow, weak sound wave onto a super powerful, super fast radio wave. We call that the carrier wave. The best way to think about it is like putting your voice message into a special envelope that travels at the speed of light. Seriously, this one idea unlocked, well, pretty much all of modern wireless communication.
All right, so we've put our message in that light-speed envelope, and we've sent it flying across the world. Now what? How does the radio on the other end actually open that envelope and turn an invisible wave back into a voice we can hear?
Well, it all happens in 5 key steps. Step 1, the antenna gets blasted with thousands of radio waves all at once. Step 2, the tuner, that's your dial, zeroes in and selects just one specific frequency. That's your station. 3, the detector. This is the real magic happens. It cracks open the wave and pulls out the original audio signal. It basically opens the envelope. 4, an amplifier takes that tiny, weak audio signal and gives it a huge boost. And finally, step 5, the speaker takes that electrical signal and converts it back into the physical vibrations we hear as sound. And just like that, you're listening to the radio.
Now, you've definitely heard of AM and FM radio, right? Well, they're just 2 different ways of doing that modulation thing we talked about. AM, or amplitude modulation, changes the strength of the wave to carry the sound. FM, on the other hand, stands for frequency modulation, and it changes the speed of the wave's vibrations. Now, because FM doesn't care about the signal's strength, it's way less likely to get messed up by electrical interference, and that's exactly why FM radio sounds so much clearer and is way less static than AM.
So look, this is all really fascinating physics, but why should any of this matter to you? Well, it turns out that understanding the properties of sound and signals has a direct impact on our health, our technology, and just our general well-being every single day.
Let's go back to that decibel scale for a second. A normal conversation, around 60 decibels, totally safe. But listen to this. City traffic. At 85 decibels, it can actually cause hearing damage if you're exposed to it for a long time. But now, look at that last bar. Headphones at full blast can easily hit 105 decibels or even more. And at that level, you can start doing permanent damage to your ears in just a few minutes. This is a really clear, actionable takeaway. Be mindful of your volume. Seriously.
And the impact of sound goes way beyond just your ears. It has these profound effects on our bodies. I mean, calming music or the sounds of nature can literally lower your stress hormones and slow your heart rate. But on the flip side, being around chronic noise, like from traffic, can actually raise your blood pressure and cause anxiety. We've even figured out how to use sound for healing. Ultrasound, which is just super high frequency sound, is used for everything from medical imaging to physical therapy.
So we live in this world that is just constantly vibrating. It's full of sounds we can hear and invisible signals that we can't. And that brings us to a final thought. In this endless sea of noise and signals, what are the sounds that you choose to tune into? The voice of someone you love, your favorite song, maybe just the quiet of nature? What are the signals that truly matter to you? Something to think about. Thanks for listening.